to bring the chickens to somebody else and have them butcher them and pretend that this didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you find yourself doing, is pretending that they just magically went into that bag. So last night I get done doing my chores, go inside to go take a shower, and there's no water. So I had to put my clothes back on, come outside, and figure out why we don't have water. I didn't blow a breaker, nothing like that. So I figured it's probably the pressure switch that tells the pump when to kick on. So I crossed those wires and the pump kicked on and it pumped up. The connections on the pressure switch were a little corroded, so I took some emery cloth to that. It's already 10 years old. It's not a permanent fix. After swim lessons today, I went and got a new pressure switch, so I got to put that in. And then we're going to butcher some roosters. So right there's the pressure switch that we got to switch out. Cows are bellowing because they want hay. My wife also wants water. So, what do? Go feed the cows first? Or do you fix the water first for your wife? Well, I'm choosing to fix the water first for my wife. All you other guys out there, choose whichever one you would like. Alright, let's give her a shot. Perfect. Alright, so now that we got that fixed, it's time to tackle this, which is also a mess. Just a bunch of dust over everything, so we're going to wash her all down and start butchering some chickens. I've been wanting to butcher these roosters for a little over a week now, but this last week we started swim lessons, and Everett is taking these their ISR swim lessons, so it's more on floating and survival than actually teaching you how to swim. They do end up teaching you how to swim, but the main focus of it is that if they accidentally fall in water, or if they get themselves in a situation in water when nobody's around, or people can't help them right away, that they can float and breathe and survive in the water until somebody can come help them. So Everett started when he was 1.5 years old and does a week refresher every year. And this year it's even more important because we put it in a pool last fall. So especially now, having a pool in our backyard, we want to make sure that our kids have a better chance at surviving if they do accidentally fall in. So Everett had his week refresher this last week, and Asa started his course, which in the beginning it takes about 6 weeks to learn how to float, which Ace is doing phenomenal already. I'd get home from work, we'd both go to swim lessons because we have both kids, and I don't know, it's something I didn't want to miss out on with Everett. He doesn't like things new at first, but then he really ends up enjoying things once he gets the hang of it. So that's really fun to watch. But now we'll probably switch on and off on taking Asa to swim lessons. So first things first, we're going to want to get Scalder all cleaned out, filled with water and heating up. This is the biggest model that Wright Farm Products makes. It's a 220 version, so I had to run a special outlet in here. But to me it was worth it just for the size, and it heats up that much quicker. But it still takes about an hour to go from tap water to scalding water, which is 145. We want to get this cleaned out, filled up, and starting to warm up to scald the chickens. Now this, I did already clean this out after I was done the last time. It's just more getting the dust out of it and getting it ready to go this time. A couple drops of Dawn, which will help the water penetrate the feathers.
I'm coming for you.
You alright? Get up. Oh, oh, oh. You coming out to help me butcher?
Yeah, I think so. See?
Here.
I can all of this without
Spray.
pitchfork.
Can you spray this out?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Mom, it's a yeah. 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 See?
Is it all clean?
That's the rope. Yep. See? That's the rope I call it.
I think it needs a little more. You want me to do it?
Yeah, maybe.
Hey, what are you doing? Don't, thank you, but don't clean my pant legs.
You're welcome.
Want a little soap on there? Here.
Thanks.
Yeah, there you go. Get it nice and cool.
Yep. I need more soap, please.
I don't think you do. You got a lot on there. Here. Okay, okay, okay. There you go.
We had to butcher him.
Because he's crowing, you think?
This, no, like that.
Yeah, that means we gotta butcher him?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, if we butchered every rooster that crowed, we wouldn't have a rooster anymore. I finally got this butcher room cleaned out pretty good. So these roosters are about 16 weeks old. They're American Bresse. There's a few things that were different about this experience. For one, I raised them inside on deep bedding the whole time because it's the middle of winter and they never got a chance to get outside. So I don't really like that, obviously, but so these were part of my first test hatch, and I ended up changing roosters out after that. Even though the rooster looked really good, he just didn't respond well with the hens. So the feet weren't as dark blue as I wanted, and all in all, they're not as meaty as I wanted, and there were some with black feathers, but I got all that figured out, and now my hatches don't have any of those issues, and I'm really excited to butcher some of those new ones out. Even though those ones aren't going to be outside either because it's the middle of winter. So that's definitely something I would rather see them on, is out on green grass, on the pasture, and then bring them inside for the last 2 weeks to put them on milk. Since they were inside the whole time, I ended up putting them on, it's raw Jersey milk we're buying from down the street because my cows aren't in milk right now, and I soak their regular grain ration in that. So it's a mash with a little bit extra milk. I put a decent amount of milk in there. So I'm curious to see how they turn out. For YouTube's sake, I can't show you this whole process, but I'll show you as much as I can. But I want to give you guys a good experience and let you see what's going on for the most part. I got a stainless steel table back here. This is where I eviscerate. Magnetic knife holder up there with my 3 knives. Back here I got 8 kill cones. So I'll usually kill all 8, and by then the first couple have bled out enough to where I can then put them in the scalder. Depending on the size of the bird, you can get 4 or 6 into the scalder. I normally try to stick with 4. And then in the plucker, same thing. But especially with these American Bresse, where they're worth a little bit more than your regular Cornish cross, and I want to keep them whole, I'll probably just end up doing 2 in the scalder and 2 in the plucker. So keep in mind, in the plucker, you never really want to have just 1 bird in there. It just doesn't work as well. You need the two birds spinning around and making each other flop around to get all the feathers off good. So over here I got the plugs coming from the ceiling, and I ended up putting the plucker, I ended up putting an inline switch right here, which works great that you don't have to reach down and turn the plucker on and off. I mean, you're only having the birds in the plucker for 30, 45 seconds. And the same thing with the scalder. They're only in there for 45 seconds, depending on the bird and depending on a lot of different things. You have to adjust that to get your best results. It's not an exact science, but it's set at 145. That's what seems to work for me. Depending on the birds, and how it's going, I'll end up raising that up a little bit or lowering it a little bit. Same thing with the time. You end up moving that around a little bit to see what really works for you that day, that time. There's no specific number. That's just a good starting point, is 145 degrees and 45 seconds. Trust me, it is much easier to bring the chickens to somebody else and have them butcher them and pretend that this didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you find yourself doing, is pretending that they just magically went into that bag. You didn't have to see them die. So therefore, I mean, you know that they died. You know that that chicken is what you're eating and it had to die to get there. But you just find yourself pretending that it didn't happen. But honestly, you know, you bring it to some of these other butchers and they don't have that attachment to these chickens. So they're not really going above and beyond. They might do a great job, but they're not going above and beyond like you're going to do, knowing and having that attachment to this chicken and wanting them to die in the most peaceful way possible, to not only honor their life, but to create the best meat product possible. So now that we've bled them out, we're going to go 45 seconds into the scalder. This water's at 145 degrees. Then when you think they're ready, you can check the wing feathers come out, or you can check the scales on their legs. See if that comes loose, which it does. So now we're gonna get them over here into the plucker. So this here is what your American Bresse rooster at about 16 weeks is going to look like, all dressed out. Now this is about a 5-pound chicken all dressed out. You can see all the fat back here in the back, which is amazing for a dual purpose breed. But the reason the Bresse chicken is the #1 tasting chicken in the world is because that fat will actually be marbled into its meat just like beef. So even though you can see the breasts aren't as big as what a Cornish cross would be, the drumsticks aren't as big as what a Cornish cross would be, but altogether, the taste of this chicken is going to be something like you've never had before. So now I'll go ahead and I'll put these in the stainless steel vat on ice for 24 hours. That allows the chicken to go through its rigor mortis, and it'll make it a little more tender in the end. But this one, I'm going to take inside, put in the fridge, and Liddy's going to put it in the crock pot tomorrow. And that's what makes the Bresse chicken the #1 tasting chicken in the world.